it seems like there are a lot of classes that get dropped.
Yes.
That there's this, whoa, I'm in over my head here.
Yes.
And so would you say that for most people it's maybe take a few less classes than you thought? Is it, what guidance would you have? Because it seems to me that dropping classes is not ideal.
It's expensive and it's hard on your ego. You know,
Yeah.
you've been a 4.0 student through high school and you suddenly are saying, I just don't see making it through.
And so what are some insights that would help people not to be in that situation?
I don't think it's ever a bad idea to start a little slower with fewer credits. The advising center and any of your major advisors that you would go to talk to can suggest to you, so how many hours a week are you working at your job? You're working 40 hours a week? No, you're not taking 12 credits. Mm-hmm. Not your first semester anyways. Mm-hmm. There are guidelines.
Unless you're some sort of scary savant, but yeah. You'd be an anomaly to pull that off. Okay.
Right. And so how much are you going to work? Let's think about a reasonable number of credits. Let's think about a reasonable distribution that, 12 credits, all of them with a lab, all of them really pushing the edge of
because not all credits are created equal in terms of how they consume your time.
I'll have students come in and they want to just get going and move on to the next level, and some of them will come in with dual credit classes from high school, so they've got some college credit already, and say, okay, so I'm thinking I can do this in 3 semesters, or sometimes they even anticipate 2, and say, well, either no, that's flat out not possible, or let's take a look at what that would look like if you hurried through it. And that is usually enough to say, oh my goodness, no.
You've just given yourself a 70-hour-a-week job.
Yes, much more often. The students will take 5 or 6 semesters.
And that's okay.
And it is okay, and they usually end up coming out of that with the higher GPAs.
Sure.
Because you can focus a little more on what you have instead of being so spread out. Sometimes you should just recognize, I have too much on my plate. If you find yourself triaging your classes, in other words, saying, oh, I have a chemistry test this week, so forget everything for biology, and next week I'm going to forget, I'm not doing any time with chemistry, I have to focus on biology. If you're just going that day to day or week to week doing what I have to.
Putting out fires.
Yeah, putting out fires. Maybe you've got too much on your plate. And maybe you can say, a little less video game time, I can study, and that's your problem solved. But if you're giving it enough time, you think, and still struggling, you might want to think about, can I study smarter, not just study harder? Mm-hmm. It's not just always a matter of more time. Mm-hmm. So for example, if you're trying to learn some material and you read the chapter and it's not clicking, you read through your notes from class, it's not clicking, maybe that's not the approach that's going to be helpful for you. Mm-hmm. Try, instead of just reading your notes, maybe I need to rephrase them. I'll put them in my own words. I'll annotate my notes. I'll say, there was this idea, and it kind of reminded me of this idea from my biology class, and let me refresh my memory. Oh yeah, those are talking about the same idea, they just use some different terms. That you do what you can to organize it in a way that makes sense in your head, or reword it for yourself. Dive in and get dirty with the problems. Don't be afraid to do a bunch of what ifs. Mm-hmm. Studying smarter can really make a difference. I believe
you. So just pounding the information in.
No.
What worked in 3rd grade doesn't work anymore.
No.
Yeah. Two approaches I've heard, and I'd be interested to hear your opinion. One of them is just a metaphor, and it's that learning is much like Velcro, and that there are hooks and there are loops. Mm-hmm. And if you've got lots and lots of hooks, it grabs the loops better. And so that sometimes it's expanding your hooks so the loops have something to stick to, if that makes sense. I thought that's an interesting metaphor, so that the more you know, the easier it is to learn the next thing.
Absolutely.
Each new thing you add makes the next new thing easier to learn, and remembering that you're going to pick up steam. But the other thought that I thought was really interesting was they were talking about less studying in the way that we tend to think of it, and more testing. And so it's start with a test. And then this is what I got right. Let me go find the things that were my mistakes and kind of refresh that in my mind, and then get away from it for a while. And then come back and take another test.
Yeah.
And that people who are studying in that way tend to get better retention with less stress and misery.
Yes.
That rather than let me read the chapter 27 times, or let me try to flashcard, second year chemistry into my head, that you might be better served quizzing, and then you're not spending a lot of time hammering stuff you already know. You're figuring out where your gaps are. Does that?
Right.
Would you recommend that?
Yes.